Welcome to the Black Entrepreneur Experience podcast, inside the business, buzz, and brilliance of Black entrepreneurs. Here is your host, Dr. Frances Richards.
Welcome, Alisha.
Hi, Frances. Thank you so much for having me.
You know what? I have given a very brief snippet of your bio. Why don't you fill in the gap and tell our audience more about you and your company?
Sure. I'm Alisha, of course. I am a business coach to creative entrepreneurs, more specifically, creative women who are looking to make their brand known online or build an online business. I am also the author of the book called The Blogpreneur, which is all about turning your blog into an actual profitable business. And I am currently working on book number 2 that doesn't have an exact launch date just yet, but it's coming. But what I do is I work with women one-on-one to help them just gain clarity in their brand. So I love working with women who have a lot of ideas, but they're not quite sure what to do with it, or they're not quite sure which one is actually worth turning into a business. I also work with women who may already have an established online brand, but they may feel a little bit stuck or stagnant with where they currently are. So maybe they are not reaching the audience that they want. Maybe they are struggling with figuring out how to monetize their idea, or they're just trying to figure out how to get their feet wet with creating consistent content. So if you are a creative online business owner, my blog, my coaching services, everything that I create is really to help you gain clarity and make a profitable living from your passions and your purpose. So that's a little bit more of my end and what I do.
So, Alisha, how did you decide this was the business for you?
Oh gosh, yes. Let me give you the abbreviated version because it's a long story. So originally, about 5 years ago, I actually started my first business, which was creating jewelry, and I was selling it online. So I was just making like little necklaces and bracelets and things, and I decided to sell it online through like a little e-commerce shop. So I'd never owned a business ever in life. I don't have any family members or friends who own their own business. So I really kind of dived in, not knowing anything about online businesses or not knowing what to expect from the whole thing. I really just relied on everything that I learned from Google and trying to implement other people's strategies into my brand. Needless to say, I learned a lot from trial and error. But as I was kind of building this business and trying to, figure out all the ins and outs of running an online business, I began blogging too, through which is now thealishanicole.com, and just kind of blogging about my journey. So talking about building this business, the things that I learned, the little successes I did have, the things that went wrong at the time as well. So I was kind of using thealishanicole.com at that time as kind of like an online diary. Like I said, I didn't know of anyone who owned their own business. I didn't have any like online business friends at the time either. So I felt kind of alone. So blogging was kind of like my way of venting and just kind of getting out some of my ideas and frustrations. And I noticed that the more I began blogging about my journey, the more I kind of got into the whole blogging world and the blogging community. So more people began to read my blog. And I noticed too that as I was sharing the different things that went right and went wrong in my business, I began to get more people asking me more questions about how to start their own business or how to market themselves or how to put their ideas out there or just simply just how to get started. So the more questions I got, the more content I just began to create. So I got a little bit more strategic with the content I was creating on my blog and, not just talking about my journey or not just talking about my random trips to Target like I used to. So I really just started creating content around the questions that I was asked. And kind of a shift began to form because I saw myself running this online business where I was creating and selling jewelry, but I ended up falling in love with that kind of like this whole blogging world. So I started putting more energy, more time into the blog. So I kind of feel like my purpose shifted a little bit. And then I went through my first business kind of failing and then me being able to rebrand and revamp it. So I shared, of course, all of that on my blog too. And I not only noticed that more people were reading the blog, more people were interested in the blog than they were in my online shop, but I also started getting more and more emails with people asking me to show them how to start their own business too. And it got to the point where I was like, I love doing this, I love giving this advice, but I have to make this in a way that it's going to be not really worth my while because I love helping people, but make it in a way where I'm benefiting or getting something from it. So that's when I decided to start offering coaching services for other small business owners. And it started out really simple. I think I was charging $35 an hour for one coaching session. So I was literally a newbie at this. I didn't know any better. But that's kind of how, the Alisha Nicole brand formed, was kind of by accident.
So, what was that aha moment that you knew it was going to be successful?
I definitely think when people started paying for my services. So I noticed, like I said, I started answering people's emails. I did that for free for a really long time. And then I started offering coaching services for like a ridiculous $35 an hour. And then I eventually realized, like, wait, I could be charging, more for this, like more for my knowledge. So I would bump up my prices a little bit and more people kept signing on. And then I bump up my prices a little bit more. So I was like, okay, maybe I am actually onto something right now. Maybe I have something that people really need. So I think at that moment, where even when I was increasing my prices, because I think I kind of did that just to see if I was just getting clients just off of pure luck, I guess you can call it. It's like maybe they're just buying this because it's super cheap. But even after me raising my prices to the point they are now, people are, still investing in those services. So I definitely think that it was when I saw that people needed something that I had to offer.
So, are you operating Alisha Nicole full time, or do you have other outside or additional work that you're doing?
Nope, it's just the Alisha Nicole. So I'm coaching. I also offer different workbooks and different printed resources and also different pre-recorded classes as well.
So, how do you define Alicia's success?
I'm not one of those people who define success by the amount of money that they make. I definitely have been able to create a lifestyle where, me and my family are taken care of, but I define my success as being able to wake up every morning and to do something that I love. When I was growing my first online business, I was stuck in a job that I felt was literally driving me insane, to the point where I had like a full like panic attack in the bathroom. It was horrible. I promised myself that I would never put myself in another situation like that again. So for me, success means being able to wake up every morning, being able to connect with people that I genuinely love working with, and just being able to create a brand or a business around something that I'm really passionate about. I feel like that's something that a lot of people want, but they're not there yet, or they feel like it's unachievable. So just for me to be able to wake up and say, oh my gosh, I get to do this every day, that's success to me.
That's beautiful. So take us on this journey. You mentioned that when you were doing, if I understand you correctly and I got the story right, if not, absolutely make the correction. When you were doing the jewelry, you were also working a 9 to 5 job that was not giving you the pleasure that you wanted. Now, when you were doing the jewelry, were you passionate about that? Or were you more passionate about the blogging?
I was very passionate about it when I first started it, because I didn't start blogging like immediately when I started doing the jewelry. So I feel like for a long time, that was what I was passionate about. That's literally all I wanted to do. I feel like everything always happens for a reason. So me starting that jewelry business was just another piece of the journey to kind of lead me into what I was really supposed to be doing. So without that, I wouldn't be where I am today at all. So I would say I was really passionate about it, but I think it was only supposed to be for temporary, because once I started blogging, I've always been like a writer at heart. So that's another reason why I just connected to it almost instantly. So I think once I really got into blogging, I immediately felt like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be.
So, what is a daily or weekly habit that you'd like to share with our audience that you do consistently that is giving you the greatest success?
I would say I have two. So either creating content, so whether that be on social media, whether that be on my blog or YouTube channel, I truly believe that the content I create has really helped me to bring in consistent income, bring in new clients, and to grow my audience as well. And then the other thing that I do is I take time out to simply just connect with the people that I want to work with. So I'm chatting it up in my Facebook community, I'm chatting it up in other people's Facebook communities. I'm making sure that I'm talking to people on like Twitter and Instagram, and that I'm trying my best to respond back to comments as much as possible. So just taking the time out to show my audience that I'm a real person. I'm here. I'm not above anybody by any means. And that, I care and I want to kind of get on their level and know them as a person instead of just seeing them as a new client or a potential new customer. So those are two things that I do definitely weekly that have really helped me to grow my brand.
So, are you managing the content on your own, or do you have a team that helps you manage the various social media platforms?
Right now, I am doing it 100% on my own, which is insane. But I'm actually in the works of preparing myself to hire somebody this summer. I realized that I can no longer be superwoman and that I need a little bit of help. But as of right now, I am doing everything myself. But I do use different tools and things that make it a lot easier.
So, what is the technology tool or technology platform that is a must have for you managing your business?
Right now, this is for as social media because I like to have content going out on social media consistently. I use a system called Smarter Q, which you basically load it up with like whatever you want to send out on Twitter and Facebook. So that's different blog posts or promoting different products. So I load it all in and then it keeps recycling that content. So I have like a little schedule that goes out. So every single day, my content is being pushed out to Twitter and Facebook. I also use Tailwind, which is similar, but it's for Pinterest. So I just fill up my queue with, all my blog posts that I want to be posted on Pinterest, and it consistently puts it out there and adds it to like my Pinterest boards. So those two tools are like my absolute must-haves right now. And then as far as like planning, I am definitely a paper planner type of girl. So I still use an old paper planner. And then I use like my iCal on my computer as well to send me like little reminders about appointments.
So, share with us, Alisha, what is one valuable lesson you wish you knew before starting your business?
I wish I would have known how important branding your business is. When I first started, I thought branding was just a pretty website and a pretty logo. While that is a part of it, I didn't know how deep branding went. I didn't know the message I should be putting out to my audience. I didn't know how I should be connecting with my audience. I honestly didn't even have a good idea of who my audience was. And that's really one of the reasons why I kind of struggled in my very first business, because I would read in all of these business books about branding, but I was kind of naive to it and was like, I can do that later. I just need to start making money now type of thing. So I definitely wish someone would have sat me down and said, Alisha, you need to brand before you can grow. I was trying to be like a millionaire before even having a solid brand, but your brand is really the foundation of your business. And without that, you can't continue to grow. You can't continue to add on anything if your foundation is shaky.
So, someone's saying, Alisha, I'm not really following you about branding. Can you give them some information about what would you say are the two, if there, I know there's more steps to branding, but give us two things that they must do before they start their business, or if they're thinking about looking at branding, what would you tell them to do?
I would say absolutely first, figure out who your target audience is. If you can know exactly who you want to work with, who you want to sell to, who you want to create content for, then the branding part, the content, all of that will come easy because you're basically building it around that one person. So definitely think about who it is that you want to work with. The second part, I would say get your messaging down. What is it that you want to be known for? What is like the main problem that you want to solve or how to help your audience? So get that messaging down and then share that on your website, share that on your social media, create content around that to kind of back up your brand's message. So for me, my brand's message is helping you live your life and create your business on purpose. Everything that I create is around that one brand message. That's what I want to be known for. So definitely figure out, get really clear on your target audience, and then think about that one big message that you want to share with the world and consistently share it.
Alicia, I tell you that this is very good information. And the reason I say that, and I like what you said about how you got into blogging and how you figured out how to monetize it. And I have to tell you, about 4 or 5 years ago, I jumped on this journey, online entrepreneur, lifestyle entrepreneurs, and you hear the Sarah Solomons and the Lewis Houses and they Brandon Burchards, and they talk about this whole lifestyle entrepreneur. And my journey is a little similar as yours. And I'm reading all of these books and I'm saying there's a missing link. I can't figure it out. And so I would hear them say, who's your avatar? Who are you talking to? And I was just spinning my wheels for years trying to, when I would think that I had gotten this far. And so I actually just relaunched my website, but I had a website before and it was like, it didn't make sense. It didn't have a call to action because when I started this journey, you hear you need a website. And it's so much minutia out there and you don't know what is the right information, what is so key. And so I kept jumping back and forth. Am I talking to a younger me? Am I talking to me? Am I talking to my friend? Trying to narrow down your avatar. And I agree with you 1,000%. If you can identify that person and talk to that one person each and every time, and I always think about Michael Kors and the branding of Michael Kors. And so when Michael Kors was doing his avatar, and when Michael Kors was doing, if he did a business plan or however he started this advertising journey, I can bet you $1 million that his avatar did not look like me, right? Now, Michael Kors doesn't care that I purchase his bag, but Michael Kors has a specific person in mind that he's talking to when he designed his $500 or $1,000 bag. He's talking to that person. And that is the best way. When I looked at it later on and I was thinking about all of these other individuals that are branding, when Coca-Cola is branding, they're talking to a specific person.
Exactly.
And so we get into this, they're not talking to us. No. When Coca-Cola developed Coca-Cola, now they don't care if you drink it, but they were not specifically talking to you. And so now they understand the bigger reach. And so they have a commercial for that can fit that community and that community. But if you dig down into their original message, it was not talking to me. So thank you for that.
Yeah. And that's the truth. That's 100% true what you said. If you can get really clear on who it is that you want to work with, like crystal laser focus clear, everything else will come easy. And then you'll still have those people who may not quite fit your audience, but they still may need what you have to offer. But at first, you have to get clear on who it is that you want to work with. And you have to look at them as if they are just one single person, not a group, but one person.
So what's working well for you now in business, Alisha?
Honestly, self-care has been one of the best things. I am a workaholic by nature. So really taking time to just relax and reflect sometimes on where my brand is, where I want it to go, has honestly been probably the best things I've done for my business since I started. And the second thing too has been still just creating content, still just providing my audience with resources that are helpful, that still may not, cost, there's not going to cost them an arm and a leg to use, but it's still going to be really helpful to help them achieve something in their brand. So definitely just consistent content.
And that is so key. If you're in this internet space or you're wanting to get into this internet space, there's a book, it's titled Content is King. And one of the things that you mentioned that I want to kind of reflect on for the audience that's listening, that's very profound, is one of the things that I've learned over the years in terms of building my online business is that questions are really key. And so when you can find your avatar and continue to get the questions, that's how businesses are developed. Because that was another thing that was a stumbling block for me. I kept saying, what problem are you solving? I knew that people were coming to me and they were getting answers, but I couldn't narrow down what the problem is. What problem am I solving? So that's one of the things that you said that's very profound. Besides the avatar, knowing who you're talking to is actually knowing what problem are you solving.
Exactly. If you can solve one problem, not only will it help you to be known as kind of like an expert in your industry, but it's going to help you to create things that people actually are willing to pay for. And I think that's kind of what it all boils down to is someone willing to invest in this. And if you can provide the answer to one of their biggest questions, the answer will always be yes.
Very good. So, Alisha, who's your top two influencers in your life and what lessons do they teach you?
My mom, of course, is definitely one. She isn't a business owner. She's never owned her own business, but she is literally one of the hardest working women I know. And she's just always taught me to keep dreaming, to keep working for what I want. Entrepreneurship is hard, really hard, and it can be very discouraging sometimes. So she has just really just taught me that there is nothing out here that I can't accomplish with a little hard work. So she's definitely one of my biggest influences. The other influence I would definitely say would be Regina of byregina.com. She's someone who has really taught me how important it is to create great content and also to not be afraid to give your knowledge away for free and to also charge for it as well. So kind of like the balance in between the two. So she's been like another just big influence as far as how I do business and how I want to run a business that is authentically me, that still is profitable and it still is helping other people, but it feels good to me to do.
So, talk to a younger you. What advice would you give to a younger you?
Oh, goodness. I would tell my younger self to calm down. I am a warrior at heart. I would definitely tell her to calm down, trust that the path you are on is the one that God created for you, and that if He created it for you, then you're going to be equipped with all the necessities you need to get through it. So I would definitely just tell my younger self to just calm down. It's going to be okay. It's going to work out. Just keep working towards it. Ignore the fear, ignore the self-doubt. Just keep going. It sucks now, but it's going to get better.
So, let's kind of shift gears a little bit. Talk about risk or failure. What was that worst moment in your business and what was your takeaway?
So it definitely would be when I had my jewelry business. The first phase of that business definitely failed mainly because I didn't know anything about branding at that time. It really hurt my heart because at that point I had already quit the job that I hated. I was living with my mom and of course she was super supportive, but it kind of put me in a place like, girl, what are you going to do next with your life? Like if this doesn't work, you're stuck or you're going to have to go back to, that job that you absolutely hated. So I would definitely say that was probably the worst moment is when I decided, okay, I can't keep doing this anymore. I need to revamp it. I need to change it, but I didn't know exactly how at that moment.
So, how did you recover? When you hit that bump, how did you adjust and reset?
Yeah, so I actually hired my own business coach. I began working with her. I also started looking for content or information that was geared more towards creative business owners or business owners who were who were doing similar to what I was doing. Before that, all the business advice that I found were kind of business advice that were tailored more to corporate companies. While some of it was, really good advice, I just couldn't connect with it because that's not the type of industry that I'm in. So I work with a coach. I started taking in more content based around creative entrepreneurs. And the number one thing that I did is I got really clear going back to that brand message. So what was that one problem I wanted to solve? What did I want to be known for? So I got clear on that. I got really clear on my target audience. And then I basically just revamped the entire thing. I started with a new name, a fresh new website, new products. I actually put together an entire like marketing and social media strategy. I started blogging within that jewelry business itself as well as a way to kind of market what I was doing. So I really had to start from scratch in order to build it back up to where I want it to be. And it was really successful the second time around. I was able to be featured on different websites. I was able to host like a pop up shop in one of my favorite local shops. So it became really what I wanted it to be. But first, I had to start over from scratch. I had dug myself so deep into creating just for anybody who was willing to buy that I needed to shut down that first round of that business and completely just revamp, start from scratch, and look at it with a whole new outlook, and also begin looking at it more as a business and less as something I was just doing to make money from, I guess you could say.
So, if you had to do it all over again, would you recommend launching the way you did?
I would. I would recommend that to, of course, any of my clients or anybody that, follows me on my blog. I would definitely recommend starting with getting clear on your message, getting clear on your target audience. But for my personal journey, I wouldn't change anything about it. Like I said, I think everything happens for a reason. So if I wouldn't have been, failing in that business at first and then being able to kind of revamp and bring it back to life, I wouldn't have the skills or the knowledge to be able to help someone else on their journey. So for my clients, yes, I would definitely recommend them starting the right way. But for my personal journey, I don't think I would change anything.
So, talking to someone in the audience that is interested in starting a business, they're fearful. What advice would you give them?
I would tell them to get to the root of what's causing that fear. And once you get to the root of that fear, whether that be you're afraid of this business failing, you're afraid of this business actually succeeding, because there is a fear in being successful. If you're just simply afraid that you're taking away time from your family or, your job or whatever the fear may be, get to the root of what's causing that fear. And then I want you to ask yourself, well, what's the worst that could happen? I promise you, no excuse you come up with is going to lead to it hurting you or you possibly like dying from it. And if it does, then you need to go the other way. So fear of failure. Okay. You fail. You do just like I did. You look back, you see what you did wrong, you revamp, you try it again. You use that failure as a learning experience. If you're afraid of succeeding, think about all of the amazing things that success is going to lead you to, and quit kind of honing in on just the negatives. If you're afraid it's going to take away time from your family, then you need to make it a priority to work your schedule around your family time. And then also think about, if this business does succeed, how it can allow you to have more time with your family. So fear is just an emotion. It's just like sadness. It's just like happiness. You feel it one moment and the next minute you don't. You just have to learn that fear is only an emotion. It can't physically harm you. Like fear can't pop up and smack you in the face, but it will stop you from truly pursuing your purpose. So you have to ask yourself, is this fear worth me sitting on this idea for the rest of my life and possibly living with regrets? Or is it worth me kind of taking that next step forward and saying, I'm afraid, but I'm going to try this anyway just to see what happens?
So, Alicia, you talked about your mother being your influencer and your family. How do you blend or balance your personal life, family life with your business?
I won't say as much as I balance it. I just think that I give each part of my life priority when it's needed. Say, for example, right now, I get married in like 4 days. Yeah, so right now, that part of my life is taking priority over the business part. So I'm kind of taking a break from creating content right now. I don't have any coaching clients this week. I'm not starting back up until June. So right now in this season, my wedding and, future marriage is taking priority. I will say that my family and my fiance knows if I am in the middle of a big launch, then they know, okay, I'm gonna need to put in some extra hours, or he's gonna have to take out the dog a little bit more, or pitch in more to make sure dinner's ready while I focus fully on this launch. So it's not as much as balance. I just give priority when priority is needed. If I'm going and visiting my mom, I know that she really values that time that we have together. So I try not to be on my phone. I try not to be on my computer the entire time because I know in that moment she takes priority.
I like that. And congratulations on your upcoming marriage.
Thank you.
Yeah, are you creating content around that or are you on hiatus?
I'm not creating content on the blog around it. I've been talking a lot about the marriage on social media because that's kind of like my way of showing my audience like who I am outside of my brand. So I've been talking about it a lot on social media. I try to leave like the content on my blog more related to personal development topics and business topics. But on social media, I like being able to show people, this is who I am outside of my brand. I show my dog, I show the wedding process and things like little fun things like that. But as of right now on the blog, I am taking a little hiatus until we get back from our honeymoon.
Well, yeah, congratulations in advance. So
Thank
you
you.
mentioned you're in North Carolina. Was that the best city for you to launch your business?
Originally, no. So currently I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina, but I've only been here about 2 years. Before this, I was in a little city called High Point, North Carolina, and that's where I grew up. And I don't know if anybody knows, High Point is the furniture capital of the world. So there's a lot of furniture industries there. There are a lot of different furniture factories there. So good for that business, but not really good for running a creative online business like I do. So I moved to Raleigh, North Carolina, a couple years ago, and we're actually considered one of the best cities for up and coming creative entrepreneurs. So I am in the perfect city right now, especially being able to connect with other people who are like-minded like me, different events, different like conferences and things like that are really tailored to the industry that I'm in. So that was one of the biggest reasons why I moved here.
Thank you for sharing that. So, what book would you recommend to our audience and why?
I'll mention the one that I'm reading right now. If you guys follow me on social media, I am a huge book nerd, so I could go on and on about this. But right now, there's a book called You Are a Badass at Making Money, and it's by Jen Sincero. She's one of my favorite like self-help type authors. But the book is really all about getting through the like different blocks or like negative mindsets that we have around money. So digging deep into why we look at money the way we do, why we're afraid of making money, and the different kind of like mental shifts that need to happen in order for us to make more money in our lives. That was one of the things I really struggled with when starting my business, and even up until recently in my business as well, as kind of like the mindset I had around money, really based off of just how I grew up. I didn't grow up with money. I struggled a lot throughout high school and like college years and even some after with money. So I learned quickly that the way I thought about money really shaped and molded how I made money. So this book is really just all about getting over those mental blocks around money, making money, feeling good about talking about money too, which is I feel is a little taboo sometimes. It's an incredible, incredible book. If you feel like you're being limited by your thinking or negative thinking, especially around the topic of money, I highly, highly suggest getting it. It's one of those books where I should have just highlighted the whole book because I've highlighted so many different quotes and parts in it that it just looks like a rainbow if you flip through it. It's so good.
So, Alisha, if you conducted this interview, what's the one question that you wish I would have asked you? And I'd like you to answer that question.
Wow, that is a good question. I feel like we've covered so much. I would definitely ask myself about the book that I'm currently working on. It's called Living Over Existing, and it's definitely different from any of the content that I've created ever with the Alisha Nicole. It's more of going back to like the mental shifts or like the mental like blocks that hold women back from success. So it's not necessarily about building a business or making more money. It's more about what stops women from pursuing their ideas and turning them into a business, or what stops women from actually being successful. And I've learned in my own journey that it's things like fear and self-doubt and anxiety and comparison. So this book is really molded around how we can feel those emotions, how we can recognize that we're feeling this way, but also not let it hinder us from actually reaching our ideal of what success is.
So, share with our audience a parting piece of advice you want to offer.
Yeah, I would definitely say to stay consistent. You can create the best content in the world. You can know exactly who it is that you want to work with or who you want to market to. But if you're only showing up once a month, once every few months, you're never going to see any type of growth in your brand. Building a business isn't something that you show up one day and do, and then you kind of come back a few months later. If you really want to build this brand, if you really want to be known as an expert in your industry, if you want to make consistent income, if for any reason maybe you want to build this business to the point where you can quit your full-time job, you have to be consistent. And when I say consistent, I don't mean just creating content and things just for the heck of it. I mean really creating content that people need, being or becoming a resource in whatever industry that you may be in, and just being there to offer your audience something of value consistently, whether that be showing up on your blog twice a week, sending out a newsletter to your email subscribers once a week, posting to social media several times a day. Create some type of schedule that you know you can stick to and that you know that's going to help you to be consistent. I would also say too, I understand that we all have, a million things going on. We all have families and, other responsibilities, but if you really want this to happen, you can't make excuses. If you know that you can only get work done when your kids go to bed, then when your kids go to bed, you need to be working instead of watching Netflix. If you know that you have to work at your job from 8 to 5 o'clock every day, you need to be getting up earlier in the morning to knock out some work and possibly going to bed later at night to get some work done, or even working on your lunch break instead of going and, hanging out with your coworkers. So you really just can't make excuses. I had to learn this too, where I was like, oh, well, I'm tired. I want to take a nap. But if I took a nap every time I felt like taking a nap, I wouldn't be as consistent as I am now. So I couldn't use me being tired as an excuse. I know that I need to push through this work. I need to get this done. And then I can reward myself with a nap or go to bed earlier, tonight or something. But you can't use excuses. And trust me, I understand everybody has stuff going on, but if you want it, you'll work for it.
Good advice. So, Alicia, we come to the part in our podcast where we call it Fun Facts Lightning Rounds. I'm going to ask you a series of questions. I want you to give me very quick answers. If there's something that you desire not to answer, you can feel free to say pass. Are you ready for the lightning round?
I am.
So, Alicia, what's the last movie you saw?
The last movie I saw was Secret Life of Pets.
And you relaxed doing what?
Writing or reading.
And your favorite singer or rapper?
Beyonce.
And your favorite dance song?
Not out in public, but anything by the Bee Gees.
And what food you eat every week, no matter what?
Grilled salmon and rice. It's my favorite quick meal.
And your favorite month?
August. It's my birthday month.
Thank you so much. Alicia, we are so greatly appreciative of you spending time with the audience at Black Entrepreneur Experience. Can you share what is the best way for our audience to connect with you?
Yeah, so you can find me over at thealishanicole.com. You can also find me literally on all social media networks at The Alisha Nicole. So I'm at the same handle on everything.
Alicia, thank you so much for being with us on Black Entrepreneur Experience. That's a wrap.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening and subscribing to Black Entrepreneur Experience. We would love for you to leave a review and rating on iTunes and share with your friends. For show notes and more episodes, go to www.beepodcast.com. Join us next Wednesday, and remember, green is the new black. So keep your bank accounts and your business in the black.